I read Dune recently and really enjoyed it. So the Saturday immediately following finishing this book, I tucked myself up alone on the sofa, put my favourite slippers on and watched the 2023 film. And I have a lot of thoughts. Hello, welcome to Recovering Book Snob. My name is Chloe. Thank you for being here. I was really looking forward to watching the film. As I read the book, as I went on, the anticipation rose more and more. Spoiler alert, I did enjoy it. There were just some things that weren't executed in the way that I thought they would be, some things that I felt were a shame, other things that I really liked. Enough of that, let's start talking. As an overall comment, I really enjoyed seeing all these people in the flesh. It gave them a bit more personality, being able to see facial expressions, being able to hear the tone of their voices. I feel like the one main thing that Dune lacks, as someone who loves character development and really does enjoy that type of book, Dune lacks character development, and sometimes it feels like the characters don't show that much emotion, and although you hear their internal monologues, there isn't really much in terms of feeling, or at least you don't get much complex feeling through. And I think seeing it acted out, and I think it was pretty well cast, seeing it acted out really gave the viewer an opportunity to see these characters as more complex people than they were portrayed in the book. So that was really fun. And I think specifically you don't see much of Zendaya, which makes sense because the 2023 film is the first half of the book. Oh, I'm gonna mention spoilers, by the way, just to warn you. So it kind of ends at the beginning of them entering the desert, and Zendaya is Chandi. I mean, she's a pretty accomplished actor, so I thought she was pretty well cast, but I thought Timothée Chalamet visually was a really good choice for Paul. He pretty much is identical to what I imagined Paul would look like. Maybe it's subliminal, maybe it's because I've seen adverts for Dune, but I do think that the structure of his face, he's meant to be kind of handsome but not like a modern day hunk. So yeah, I don't know, I just thought he really matched the vision in my head, which was fun. I feel like sometimes it's fun for the film to validate what you thought things would be like, but it's also fun for it sometimes to surprise you, and sometimes for the director and the producers and stuff to make their own little decisions that are a little bit different. Other than that, and as a part of this thing of actors bringing tone to scenes, there was a bit of humour added, and I wasn't really sure how to feel about the humour. I think I did enjoy it because when I think about it, the book is actually, it's kind of dry. You have lots of conversations and you don't really feel much human connection. There isn't really a naturalness to any of the conversations because all of the chat is incredibly serious. And I did enjoy the humour. The first scene that really sticks out to me is when Duncan teases Paul for not being ripped and he's like, "Oh, you're looking more bulky than before," and Paul's like, "Really?" And Duncan's like, "No, obviously not, skinny." Skinny as shit. And I'm not sure if I just didn't see it in the book or whether it wasn't there. I think it sort of wasn't there. I'm also someone who loves dry humour. There was another moment that I'm pretty sure wasn't in the book where when Paul tries to use the voice, when him and Jessica have just been captured and are in the Thopter moving towards the desert, and Paul tries to use the voice and he doesn't do it well after Jessica told him not to do it anyway, and Lady Jessica just gives him the most annoyed mum glare where she just is just like, "You stupid little boy, I told you not to do that and you ignored your mother." And then that also raises quite a good point that I really enjoyed about the film, how you see the mother-son relationship a bit more, because in the book they do describe how she slowly becomes fearful of him and the relationship is sort of fractures, and they describe that in the book, but I just didn't feel the impact as much. And I think in the film, because you have these actors, these little moments, these little facial expressions and tone, and they've added a bit of humour, I think we'll see with the second film, but I think that they are setting up for a really nice, slightly more thorough exploration of the Lady Jessica-Paul relationship and its kind of breakdown. Breakdown sounds really severe, but and just the way it evolves as they both move into their roles in the desert. Another funny moment actually was when the Reverend Mother, like you meet the Reverend Mother, it cuts to this enormous, hideous spider thing, and then she dismisses it and tells it to go away. And as a viewer, you think, oh, this is going to be relevant. This big scary beast, like I'm meant to be scared of it. It's ugly and scary. Something's going to happen as a result of us being shown this beast. And then nothing happens. Like the beast is never really referred to again. It's just kind of funny because she just dismisses it like a little household pet, like an annoying chihuahua that won't stop barking and like yapping at your shins. So that was funny. The dialogue, it's funny because I think a lot of what they said was kind of close to what was written in the book, but for some reason seeing some things said, like some of the inspirational things, some of the intense wise things, seeing it said makes it cheesy to me. I think I'm really sensitive to that sort of thing and I'm really critical. The moment I feel like something feels cheesy, I'm like some of the lines that when I read them and really I enjoyed them in the book, when they were actually said out loud, I didn't enjoy as much. The line that really comes to mind is quite early on when Gurney, Halleck and Paul are in their training session. There's this exchange where Paul's like, I'm not in the mood, and then Gurney's like, you gotta find the mood. No one cares if you're not in the mood, like the fight doesn't care. And then at the end, once Paul picks things up, Gurney's like, oh, it seems you found the mood. Like that whole exchange, that was in the book and I read it and enjoyed it, but then seeing it in the film, I don't know, it didn't hit. One of the biggest things that I missed was all of the thoughts. In the book you read Paul and Lady Jessica's thoughts when they were analysing scenarios and then when they were kind of interpreting things. I guess that's just the reality of the difference between like a book and a film. As I've said, you get these huge gains when it comes to facial expressions and tone and things like that, but then you kind of miss out and it becomes a lot harder obviously to communicate thoughts. So that was the flip side of that coin. I was sad to not see them actively analysing and like really understand what they're thinking, because I enjoyed some of the clever moments of that in the book and I really liked that as a main power of theirs. I thought it was so cool, the idea that they could analyse like body language and things like that really well, because it felt like an extension of something that normal humans can do. That was just cool because it wasn't quite all the way magic, unrealistic. It felt like something that some people probably could do, and it was sad to not see it as much in the film. But as someone who's read the book, I felt awfully smug watching it and just kind of knowing that they were able to do that. I have a note that says all the questioning who the train. I don't know what that was meant to say. Let me know if you know. And these are kind of in chronological order. So they do a lot with sound and music, and the score is pretty incredible, very powerful, intense, and it's clearly well executed, but I just want a bit less of it. I just think that these massive epic films always have these massive epic scores, and there were some moments where you would have this really intense background noise that kind of takes away, well, it makes the scene a bit more predictable because you know if something's going to happen, but I also found it just took away from the moment because it was being a little bit drowned out by the loud sci-fi noises or the loud sci-fi music that was telling you how to feel. And I don't usually find that. I don't know. I love a good score, but I don't know. I was in a picky mood, clearly, when watching this one. In particular, the moment when Paul is with the Reverend Mother and, like, doing the pain test, that was wild. They really, I guess because they're trying to show the intensity of the pain, but it was a bit like, okay, let's just let Timmy show us through his face, through his acting, because the music was so loud and I don't know. Maybe it was because I was having like a chill Saturday night in. I just thought it was rude for the film to suddenly get so loud. Ah, this is a really cool element. Okay, so I have a note that just says bagpipes, question mark, question mark. And I looked into it because when they first land, there are bagpipes playing to kind of welcome them. And I was like, oh, okay, random. I didn't realise there was Scottish heritage here. And apparently for the film, there's a lot of research done into traditions, and they would try to draw on certain cultures for different elements of the film. And the one element that I thought was really cool, and something that is a lot harder to get across in the book but just was so just visually fun to watch, was the different techniques of how the different military forces fight. With some of these books, when you have armies, legions of fighting men, it gets annoying, not annoying, it loses value, because they'll talk about one fighting force and be like, they are the strongest force ever, but then there'll always be another force where they're like, no, but they are like stronger than the strongest force ever, and then they'll just name another and they're like, they're even stronger, and you have this very one-dimensional ranking. These people are better fighters than these people, who are better fighters than these people, and when you're reading that in a book, it loses meaning. And you're kind of like, oh, okay, I guess they're all really good fighters. It also means that when they do eventually fight, it's kind of obvious who's gonna win. It's not as interesting, fight scenes in books, but seeing it on the screen, you could really see the difference between the different techniques and the ways they fought. And when I was looking into it, it spoke about how each force was inspired by different fighting cultures. I'm gonna actually get that up for you, because I'm someone, I always Google the whole question when I Google. I'm like an old person. Some of it's inspired by Filipino martial arts. I think I saw that another force, their fighting style was inspired by a type of Japanese fighter. There's also quite cool knife combat towards the end, the scene where Paul is fighting the Fremen who challenges him when he first arrives. I'm not someone who's like a huge fighting nerd, but as a regular viewer, as a regular old-fashioned regular person, it was really cool. Another thing that was really, really cool, and this is a quick one, I really enjoyed seeing the Dune. I think scale is something I find it hard to imagine. I like to be able to see stuff and have it so you can like look at how big things are relative. The size of the desert, sorry, my foot's gone numb. The size of the desert was something I loved seeing on camera. And speaking of size, the size of the sandworms, I knew when I was reading the book, I was like, I'm not imagining them big enough. I was like, think bigger, Chloe. And my brain was just struggling. It was like, but it's a worm. Why would it be bigger? And then when I saw the film, I was like, yes, that is how big you're meant to be. And it was just exciting for my little pea brain. Yeah, I literally, my note is like, size of worms, 3 exclamation marks. Another one, the hand signals. It was really cool seeing them communicate with the hand signals and how it would just come up as subtitles in the film. When I think about it, it's kind of obvious that that's how they would portray that, but I don't know, I thought it was cool. I thought it was nice that they didn't just drop it completely, or I don't know. Okay. We're gonna speed round so my leg doesn't fall off. I've got another note saying, why'd the Baron float? The Baron was not visually what I thought he would be. His whole floating thing, I thought that those suspender things would be less elegant and a bit more grotesque. To be honest, overall, I thought the Baron, I was a bit disappointed by his character. I feel like in the book, he is abhorrent, and they really take the time to build up this image of someone who loves to see people in pain, has absolutely no empathy, is just really deeply disturbing and scary. And I feel like watching him in the film, he just felt like every other big bad guy. I feel like they could have done more with him, but maybe it's because they were trying to keep the rating down, but it would have been cool to have a really disturbing Baron, and for him to have had more camera time, like more build up. Okay, so my final notes. KYNES' death, I thought that was really disappointing. I thought I could so see why they showed it like that in the film, where KYNES is about to hang on to a sandworm and then gets attacked and then takes them all down with him with the sandworm, and he does the thumping, and like that was cool in its own way, and I could see why they moved away from how they did it in the book. But I thought the way he died in the book, was really significant, like this long scene of him being left in the middle of the desert and him slowly dying and hallucinating and like thinking about his father. And I thought that was a really cool change of pace in the book, and also an opportunity to just understand KYNES better and really drive home the importance of KYNES' journey and like caring for the desert. And it just felt like more of an ecologist's death, whereas the thumping and the big sandworm and oh, we're all gonna die together, it just felt like Hollywoodified, but not the worst thing ever. But I just was sad. Actually, another gripe I have, Paul, the way that the Fremen walk through the desert, they have to walk in a way that mimics the sounds of nature, so it can't just be a regular plod that sandworms don't realise that they're there. You see Paul learning this in like an educational video, as opposed to him, I think he sort of learns it maybe from instinct, maybe I think from a bit of observation in the book. And I thought that was so annoying, it was so sad. I think there was opportunity to show him learning it through observation, but they just don't do it. That's just the most boring thing ever. It makes the desert seem less mysterious, because it's like, oh, you have all this information on how the Fremen survive, whereas in the book it's really depicted as like, we know nothing about the Fremen. And in the film it's like, yeah, we got loads of videos on them if you want to learn. It's like, it's like, no, I don't want to learn. I want Paul to be magical and instinctive and smart, and he works it all out himself. Anyway, that's all my notes I have for you. I feel like it sounds like I didn't enjoy the film that much, because most of the stuff I noticed was a complaint, but it really wasn't. I can't wait to watch the part 2. I'm excited to see a little bit more of Zendaya and to see what else they've done, again to see like how closely they've kept to the book. I hope you enjoyed my slightly unstructured ramblings. I hope you have a lovely week, and thank you for watching. I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.